Hey YouTubers, this is the Roaming Prepper. I'm going to go through a few international hotspots that popped up on my radar that I think are relevant and, if nothing else, very interesting. I'll be right back. Alright, so there are a few things hit my radar all at once, so forgive me if I look away from the screen every now and then as I kind of collect all this information. So the first thing I found was interesting is Bulgaria has recently expelled Russian diplomats, according to the State Department. That's kind of interesting because what the heck did Bulgaria have to do with anything, right? Everyone knows that the Russians are after the Ukraine. They want some property. But yeah, according to Reuters, the Bulgaria expels Russian diplomat over arms depot blasts. Yeah, we didn't hear about that in the US. I don't know about EU. But Bulgaria on Thursday announced the expulsion of a Russian diplomat after prosecutors say they suspected Russian involvement in 4 explosions at arms depots in Bulgaria. Now that's kind of interesting. Moscow obviously dismisses the probe, but they they not only accuse the Russians of the explosions at these arms depots, which I'm assuming are like armories for us, but also of an attempt to poison Bulgarian arms trader Emilian Gebrev. That's interesting. What the hell does Bulgaria have to do with the Ukraine? Well, here's what's interesting. If you look at a map around the Black Sea, you have Russia to the north and Ukraine with Crimea, that little island right in between. Well, if you go around the west side toward Europe, you have Moldova, you have Romania, and Bulgaria. You go to the other way, you have Georgia, and you have Turkey. Basically, it seems like the Russians are screwing with all the former satellites that are in proximity to the Black Sea. At one point, Russia controlled all of it except for Turkey, which was a NATO member. So, interesting what they're doing. I don't know what their end game is, but the fact that Bulgaria is accusing them of bombings as well as a poisoning, which apparently seems to be a big thing with Putin, as he poisons people's asses or gives them radioisotopes. Very interesting, and I don't know where exactly this is going to go, but Prague has also accused the GRU, which is, I guess, the KGB of today, agents with carrying out the Czech blast in 2014. So get this for a second. So the Russians are causing bombings, or they're being accused of or tracked back to bombings across multiple countries, including the Czech Republic and Bulgaria, in being a part of NATO. That may be a very disruptive thing the Russians are doing. So we'll get back to that. I'm going to keep an eye on that one. But let's go to Africa. So Chad returns to calm after deadly protests against military rule. The military took power after a long-serving president, Idris Deby, was killed. So this is now the second or third developing country that had the military overthrow the legally elected president. It appears that calmed down. Ghana is sending the army to enforce mining bans. That's more an internal thing. But here, Indonesia declares the Papuan rebels as terrorists. So there's multiple countries in Africa right now, not including the ones battling ISIS, Al-Qaeda, and their affiliates, who are also struggling with internal issues. A lot of them seem to be tied with the military taking over the constitutional government or vice versa. the constitutional government running off people in the military. A lot of instability. Indonesia, obviously, in Southeast Asia, but also a problem. But the European things are really bugging me. Why Bulgaria and the Czech Republic are suddenly puffed up with Russia. Things have been happening in the background that we're not hearing about in the US unless you really dig into it. Also, India, which is bad right now, as we all know. The US coronavirus aid to begin arriving in India amid the record surge. So about 2 weeks ago, maybe more, I mentioned that India is in bad shape. They're having all sorts of issues. I know Angry Prepper and a few other people have touched on it as well. Ironically, they, despite being the manufacturer for a lot of pharmaceuticals, their infrastructure is terrible, and they didn't manage a lot of the recent religious celebrations very well. And so you just had a slew of people exposing each other and then going back home all across India. And the population density plus the lack of medical infrastructure is just exacerbating the problem. I mean, we all know the US and Italy in particular got really hammered with COVID, but because of their modern abilities and their communications and their roads, they were able to maximize their response as best as they could. And India just doesn't have that ability. It's just such a massive country with 1 billion people. But I find the timing interesting that India is absolutely getting devastated at the same time China has been provoking skirmishes on the Tibetan border with India. And China is also picking on other people. I'm not going to go down the conspiracy rabbit hole, but that's really convenient timing. Purely conjecture. But either way, China looks like they're taking advantage of the chaos to try and gain some ground. So now that's both Russia and China, our Cold War adversaries, both going after land grabs simultaneously. I did not realize about Russia hitting Bulgaria. I did not know about Russia messing and bombing the Czech Republic. So this is an ongoing thing, and it's going on for a bit. So very interesting stuff. But Mexico is still fighting gangs in the northern part of the country. They're still battling the cartels. And now Mexico will begin bottling the Sputnik vaccine, which is the Russian version of the Pfizer-Moderna vaccine, in Mexico, 2 days after Brazil refused to approve the shot. Interesting stuff. A lot of moving parts overseas. One of the big concerns goes back to China, which is the fact that our European allies, the British, are actually sending a large naval force, including one of their 2 carriers, into the South China Sea with a task force, accompanied by Norway, US, and I think a Dutch frigates running air control, anti-aircraft control. And the Brits are basically going to mosey through the South China Sea to piss off the Chinese, who are claiming all the land. Again, another one of those very interesting situations that popped up. So guys, keep an eye on the international scene. Keep an eye on the play between these countries, especially Russia and China. I don't know what they're trying to do, but with a lot of chaos in the US, a lot of chaos in Europe, these guys are doing land grabs left and right. We saw what happened in the Ukraine a couple of weeks ago. I don't think that show's over. And I got a couple of books related to this stuff, including the 2017 war with Russia, which I reviewed a couple of weeks ago. I have a few others that run through these kind of scenarios. I will be back another day, but until next time, Godspeed, take care, pay attention, and help your neighbors.